What made you make that decision to say 70 is the time?
Yeah, what made me come back to it is that you get to a certain point in your life. In my case, I was a widow, and I was really struggling as to what to do. You know, a friend of mine said, "Why don't you go back to modeling?" For someone just coming in at 3 years ago, I'm doing really well. I've walked in 15 fashion shows. I feel very fortunate because a lot of women lose their husbands, sit at home, take care of grandkids. Well, I don't have children and I don't have grandchildren. Even if I did, I'm not the type of person that wants to sit at home watching babies all day. Because when you get married, you don't give up all of yourself, but you give up a lot of yourself because you want that person you're with to be happy.
Would you say losing him has helped you to find like more purpose?
Yeah, because I think if he were still here today, I would not be modeling. I probably would not have written the books that I've written. I hate to use the term, his death gave me freedom, which sounds really cold, but in a sense, it allowed me to go back to who I was. It allowed me to become me again. You're a very confident man. Don't let boulders fall in front of you, because if a boulder falls, you can either walk around it or you can climb over it. I'm not letting anyone stop me.
You're about to make me tear up on my own show, but
Hi, I'm Jewett. I'm a fashion model and I'm on Threads and Profits. Thank you for having me.
welcome to another episode of Threads and Profit with Michael Okunloro, and today I'll be having a conversation with Joy. Joy is a 73-year-old model who didn't give up on her dream of modeling and came back to the modeling scene at the age of 70. And yes, it's promised to be a very inspiring conversation.
This episode is brought to you by 1219 Styles. For quality bespoke suits crafted to perfection, all from the comfort of your home. Schedule a virtual measurement today at www.1219styles.co.uk.
Okay, thank you for coming today, Joy. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Michael. Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure. I mean, I can't believe it's been almost a year since I last saw you.
Yes, almost a year. Almost a year. How have you been since that time?
I've been great, been busy, trying to build this career of mine. So, which is sometimes difficult to do,
I think the first question I have for you is, you said you started modeling 3 years ago.
Yes.
That means at the age of 70.
70. Yeah, actually, you're right.
70.
Yes, 70. I started in 2023.
Okay.
Walked my first show in New York, London, New York Fashion Week, with Testacano, which is a designer that does evening gowns. He gave me a chance, and it's like, I've been doing it ever since.
Ever since then.
Yeah.
What made you make that decision to say 70 is the time?
Yeah. As you know, I was a model young. So I was like 16 to 27. I modeled in Europe. What made me come back to it is that you get to a certain point in your life and, you're retired from your normal job. In my case, I was a widow and I was really struggling as to what to do, what kind of life I could have in the future. A friend of mine said, and quote unquote, "You're tall, you're skinny, you're still kind of pretty. So why don't you go back to modeling?" And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm 70 years old. No one's going to want to have a model 70 years old. Then she brought out a magazine that had a model in it that was older than me. And she goes, "This woman does not look half as good as you," which I thought was very flattering, considering this woman was in a magazine. And I said, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And that's how it all started. It's just someone saying, maybe you should do this. I went to New York and got picked up by an agency and started working. And I've been marching forward ever since. So, yeah.
And the rest is the history, as they
Yeah,
say.
the rest is history. And hopefully it's going to be a good foundation for a future in fashion. And that's, I really do like fashion. I'm, like many models my age, we're unique looking. So our opportunities are not as strong as the young, beautiful models. But the opportunities are there and we have to take full advantage of them and do the things we need to do to move forward.
How's the journey been so far from when you started?
Everyone keeps telling me that for someone just coming in at 3 years ago, I'm doing really well. I've walked in 15 fashion shows since I started in 2023. That's a lot. And it's been great. I'm doing podcasts. You're my second or third podcast that I've done. And I just think getting my name out there and getting better known is the key to any type of job and anything you do in life. You know, if you can get yourself out there and seen by people, you're going to be successful at what you do. And you're well aware of that because you've done the same thing. You're getting your name out there, and so that's important.
Thank you. If I would go back, can you talk us through your early years?
Oh my goodness,
I know that would be a long story, but yes,
yeah.
what are your
My early years were I was in Germany going to school as a college student, 16, and literally was sitting in a cafe, and this man walked by and turned around and came back. And I was with some friends and their father, who was my guardian because I was underage living in Germany, a student. And he came back and asked the gentleman, said, would your daughter like to be a model? And I'm thinking that he's talking about the beautiful blue-eyed German blonde sitting there. And the father was thinking, he's talking about his daughters. And the father naturally said, no, my daughters are in college and they're not going to model. And the man started walking away, and he came back and said, I'm talking about the redhead. Is she your daughter? Because I had red hair. I had long red hair back then because I'm a natural redhead. And he said, no, but, I don't think she'd want to either. But he threw his card on the table. And my guardian said, I'll call you. We'll talk about it. I'll call you. So we called him 2 weeks later. I was in a studio getting photographed to see whether or not I had what it needed to have in order to be a fashion model. So I was tall enough, skinny enough, and I guess photographic enough that it just worked out. So I modeled from age 16 to 27. The last show I walked in was Vivienne Westwood in 1974. That's before you were even born, so or even thought about probably. So yeah, so I stopped modeling 1974, 1975, and went into banking, and did that for a long time. And then my husband passed 8 years ago, and literally sat in my house for 6 years going, what I was going to do. And COVID came along, and you're stuck in your house, and you're going, what am I going to do? And after COVID, that's when someone said to me, you're wasting your life here. Why don't you find something to do? And modeling was the suggestion, and here I sit now. So, and I'm really fortunate. I feel very fortunate because a lot of women lose their husbands, sit at home, take care of grandkids. Well, I don't have children, and I don't have grandchildren. So even if I did, I'm not the type of person that wants to sit at home watching babies all day. I'm active. I walk every day. I exercise every day. I love traveling. This gives me that great opportunity to start traveling. And I came to England to walk in London Fashion Week and ended up staying. So
You ended up staying in London.
yeah, I stayed in London after 2004. I'm sorry. 2004 London Fashion Week. Met some people that said, yeah, you should stay here. And I'm like, okay, I'll stay here. And as an American, I can stay in England for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I've applied for my visa. But what I have to do at the end of 6 months, I have to leave for 3 or 4 days and then come back in the country, and then I get 6 more months. But you can only do that for so long. So I'm working on getting my visa. And once I have my visa, hopefully things will take off. And I'm getting ready to go to Cannes. I was in Paris Fashion Week, and did a photo shoot with a photographer in Paris with a London actually designer. So, things are just falling into place for me, and that's really good. Really good. So
It's for me as a young guy. It feels very, very interesting to hear your own story and to hear your own perspective. That at the age of 73, there is still that hope, and for you to keep on going, and you're being positive about it. That things are falling in line for you.
yeah, I'm not one. I don't sit back and worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, because I've learned you get a certain stage of your life when you learn that don't count on tomorrow, because you don't know if tomorrow is going to be there, but count on today and live today. So when you wake up every morning, be thankful first off that God kept you here, and then think of things that you want to do. Plan your future. Go forward to your future, but don't always think time is going to be there, because time has a way of escaping us all, and that's something I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to waste time on worrying about things, and I try not to worry about things. And I try to find other means also to be creative. If you're not modeling, you have to have something else to do because modeling's not an everyday job. And I don't care if you're a supermodel, it's not an everyday job. You have to have something to do. So what I've done is I've started writing. I've always written. I have a book of poems coming out, will be released actually this April.
April.
Yeah, April this year it'll be out. It's be on sale on Amazon. It's poems. I called it Passion of Life because not only is it poems, but it has some of my thoughts and perspectives about life. What is important, what is not important. And I think as a young person, you have to determine, and I didn't do this, by the way, at your age, you have to determine what's important to you in your life. And then you have to decide how you're going to get there. And don't let someone or anything block you from doing your dream, because without dreams, without hope, you have no future. And I know that you have a lot of dreams and a lot of hope. That's why you're doing the podcast. You're moving yourself forward. And you're successful. You're very successful at it. And I think it's wonderful to see young people like you. And I say young people like you because, again, I'm 73 years old. So I have that privilege of saying young people. Anyone under 70 is a young person to me at this point.
No.
And you're very young, thank goodness. But no, you personally have to live your dreams. You have to decide what you want. If you want to model. If you want to do podcasts and go into radio or TV, do it. Set the ground for it. You have to have a format of what you're going to do in your life. And a lot of young people don't realize you have to have a format. And that format consists of these things. Living a good life, living a healthy life, believe in yourself, have confidence, not only just believing in yourself, but you have to have the confidence in yourself to move forward. And people don't realize believing and confidence are two things. You could believe anything you want about yourself, but if you don't have the confidence to move from A to B, you're not going to get there. So, and you're a very confident man. I've known you from the fashion show. I watched you in the fashion show that we did together. Very confident man, and you're going to move forward because your dream is what you want, and you're moving it, you're living it, and that's what's important. I think is live your dream. Don't let boulders fall in front of you, because if a boulder falls, you can either walk around it or you can climb over it. And if it's too big to walk around or push, I'm a climber. I'm going over that boulder. I'm not letting anyone stop me.
Oh wow. Thank you so much. You're about to make me tear up on my own show, but I won't do that. You just said some minutes ago. You said I'm a very successful man.
Yes.
I think for someone of my own age, our terms of success or what we define as success might be something different. It is rather something different, more of like, oh, at this age, how many houses do I have? What is the money
Mhm.
in my bank account? Or like, what are my peers doing that
Yeah.
what they already have that I do not have? For you, what will you term as success, or what will you define as success?
Well, success for me is living past a certain age because I've succeeded in that. I was smart enough or educated enough to realize that I had to have a healthy lifestyle. So living past a certain age, because at my age, you have friends that are passing every day. I'm really healthy. I have no medical issues and stuff. So just taking care of myself is success. Success to me is being true to myself. I don't fabricate things that are about myself. I know who I am. And that's a success in many ways. Success is not necessarily getting signed by multiple agencies. Success is how you deal with that. You don't let everything you do go to your head. You keep it where you should keep it, and that's in the back of your conscious mind, looking at, okay, I did this today, but I can do that tomorrow. So anytime you can move from A to B is success to me. Success is not about money. Success is being true to yourself, being true to your family, being true to your friends. That's success. You can be the richest person in the world and be unhappy because you have money, but you've not accomplished what you wanted. I mean, I think your generation is all about making money, and that's wonderful. It's wonderful. But what about when something happens and you don't have that money? What do you have to fall back on? What success have you done that would make you fall back on it? Did you get married and have children? That's a success. Did you have a good career and you can go ahead and rebuild that career? That's success. Believe in yourself. That's success. passing forward. And by passing forward, I mean, if someone's given you something, then a gift or a word of confidence, pass that forward. That's success. So when you can encourage and help others, that's being successful to me. So am I successful? I'm successful because I'm happy with myself. I surround myself with good people, and they're good people that I want to help meet their goals. So that to me is success. Seeing you go from doing podcasts to a television show, that's success. You know, I've sat here in this chair and given you a little bit of myself, and if that helps you move forward, I don't know if it will or not, but if it does, then I'm successful because I've helped you move forward. So passing it forward, success.
Oh, thank you so much. So, let me just let me dust my jacket. Yeah, I'm a successful man.
You are.
Okay, so let's go back to 27. When you were 27, I'm sure this is quite some memory lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
memories down the lane. What made you leave modeling for
Because
banking?
back then, 27 was old.
Okay.
Older modeling. Because models typically back then, you know, designers still today want the really young, pretty girls. Okay. At 27, your body changes, you know, over time your body starts changing. At 27 back then, in 1975, 1974, I was old. I was considered old. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? I mean, here,
And yes, 75, you're young.
yeah. And that's how things have changed to that, is that now a model can go from being 16-year-old model to a 73-year-old model if you choose to continue that career. And a lot of the models that I worked with back then, and I won't mention names because it's not fair to them, have now turned their old careers of modeling into new careers of modeling. And I think that's fantastic. And what it's also done is women like me that's had a second career, who's widowed or who's retired, who wants to continue living a good life, it's opened doors for them to modeling. So there is no age limit now on modeling. There's no body shape limits anymore. You can be any body shape to model. You can have any background, ethnic or religious background, and model and become very successful. So that's the difference between when I was 27 and now. Moving in banking, my education is in international finance. So going into banking after modeling was really the only logical choice that I had, was to go into banking. So.
And what was the banking experience like?
Oh, it was fantastic. And again, I won't mention the bank, but I worked for a very large bank in Europe, and I was an industrial investment lender for them, and started out as an assistant to someone and ended up becoming the vice president of the industrial lending section. And I traveled all over the world with it. It was great fun. Great fun.
So let's go back to 27.
Yeah.
When you were in the bank. So till now that you came back to the modeling scene. At those time, did you feel like there was something you were missing out in the fashion space, or?
Actually, yeah, because, you know, I love fashion. You know, when I look at designers such as yourself, I look at not only just what you wear and what you're making, but I think of what goes into that. I miss the creative side of fashion, because even now when I go shopping, the model comes out of me because I'm looking at structure, I'm looking at design,
The silhouette.
the silhouette of how it's going to look on me. So being in banking, because I wore suits all the time and dresses, I was always conscious of what was going on in the fashion world. You can't always wear a Chanel suit, you know? You have to have a variance of what you wear. And so even in banking, I was fashion conscious because I had to look a certain way for my job. So I missed the actual runway walking and the magazine photography of fashion, but I didn't miss the physical part of wearing fashion because I was afforded the opportunity through my job that I could go into a designer store or Saks Fifth Avenue or one of the bigger Harrods here and buy designer clothes to wear. So I never really left the fashion world because I needed to look, I guess, posh for my job. I had to look like a businesswoman. I had to stand a certain way. Had to have a certain presence. So, so banking actually kept me in fashion, quite honestly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So then let's go let's dwell a bit more
Okay.
in the banking age. During your time working in the bank, what would you say like are the most vital lessons you learned during this time?
Oh my goodness. I didn't physically work in the bank. I worked for a bank, but I was most of the time outside the bank. I traveled with that. Um, for me, it was learning because I worked with different cultured people from different countries. It was learning the patience of dealing with different people's backgrounds. Because when you're in fashion, you're dealing with designers and you're dealing with other models and you're dealing with photographer. In banking, you're dealing not only with that one person, the person that you're talking to about doing a loan for, structuring something for. You're walking with their whole group of people. So you have to learn to look at personalities when people talk to you. First off, look everyone when you're talking to someone, look them in the eye, because looking someone in the eye tells you a lot about the person. Are they blinking a lot? Are they moving their head a lot? What are they doing that gives you clues as to whether or not you're saying something that they're not quite understanding, or they actually are thinking about it and rethinking about how maybe they're actually thinking about doing their business. So I learned patience. I've learned to observe people more. I've learned to look people in the eye and to listen intently. Yeah. So those are the things I learned, which I didn't have in fashion, because in fashion, as you well know, you have someone who's sewing clothes on you, and they're fixing your hair the way they want your hair. They're putting your makeup on the way they want your makeup. Being in the business world is entirely different. You're observing all the things that are going on around you, and you're observing all the people around you, and you're assessing everything they're saying, and they're assessing everything you're saying. So you need to be aware of how people's expressions are coming back to you, I guess, too. Yeah, it's entirely different. It's entirely different world. I mean, it's like two worlds colliding, quite honestly, the business world and the fashion world. Although now fashion is big business.
Yes, yes.
But again, and again, so when you go to walk in a fashion show, that designer's putting you in a suit that he thinks looks good on you. It doesn't matter what you think.
Yeah,
He's
it is the designer's imagination.
yeah, and you have to respect that. In the business world, you can go in and go, yeah, I totally disagree with you. We're not going to do it that way. You don't do that in fashion. So that's a big difference also, is that know when you're right and know when to be quiet. Yeah.
Know when you're right and know when to keep quiet.
Correct.
Okay. So if you're to advise a younger lady, because you are someone who has climbed to, I would say before you left the banking space, you were able to climb to the top of the ladder. What exactly would you say was able to give you that driving force? Or
One of the things that I learned early on in modeling is that whenever someone tells you no, there's always someone that's going to tell you yes. So you might go to an agency and walk for them, show them your portfolio, and they'll go, no, you just don't have the look we want. You're just not right to us. But you can walk into an agency next door with that same portfolio and those same pictures, looking the exact same way, and that person will go, oh, you're exactly what we're looking for. So don't take no's to heart, because no's actually open the door for another
yes,
another adventure to go into, I guess is a good term. So don't worry about no's, because no's, you're learning something. No's, you're learning that you were not right for that person, but you're going to be right for the next person. And you might get 5 no's in a row. And I just got turned down by 2 agencies that I really wanted to go with because I didn't have the right look. And I'm like, well, fine. 2 days later, I got signed by 2 agencies. So my wrong look for that one agency was the right look for the other ones. And that's what you have to look at. You have to look at the positive side of it. Don't worry about no's.
and do you think maybe it is life shielding you working from those agency, or it is just agency not wanting to work with you?
I don't think so much agencies not wanting to work with you, is that agencies still today have a specific look that they look for in their models. Even not models my age, they're looking for a specific look. I don't have that classic face, I don't have the classic beautiful face that's got the great cheekbones and all that. I have a very European Scots Irish face, quite honestly. So I don't have that. I'm trying to think of the proper word to say. I'm unique looking in myself, and I realize that. I mean, I have white hair, very pale skin, gray eyes. I'm tall, thin. Well, they might be looking for an agency might be looking for someone with the white hair, but they're looking for someone with a very narrow face, very narrow nose. I don't have those, and that's okay because I'm not what they're looking for. Agencies have specific looks that they like. The agency that I was signed with when I was younger, like blondes. Their thing was blondes. Almost everyone that was signed with them was blonde. I was a redhead. They signed me
Because of your red hair.
because of my red hair. Yeah. So, and I would walk into a shooting and I might be the only redhead in there surrounded by blondes. I stood out. So I was a commodity because not only did I bring attention to the agency because I was different from what they normally had, but even going to designers might surround me with 3 or 4 blondes, but I would be the redhead standing in the back. I would stand out because of my hair. So you have to look at what you do have, and that you can offer. I think today I'm not the standard looking classic beauty. Okay. And I don't actually, quite honestly, I don't think I'm beautiful. I think I'm a very attractive older woman.
Not beautiful.
No, I'm not beautiful. I'm not beautiful. And I tell people when they say you're beautiful, I go, no, I'm not beautiful. I'm pretty and I'm unique. And that stands me out from being beautiful because I'm unique.
You said you are attractive, not beautiful.
Yes.
What is the difference between being attractive and being beautiful?
Well, first off, I think it's a mindset. I think it's a structure, a facial structure. Everybody, in that, I don't mean to offend anybody, but when you go to fashion shows today and you look at the models, they all look the same. They're all very beautiful, but they fairly much look the same. They've got the same cheekbones, the same jaw lines, the same. They're all very mimicking of each other. There's no variance in their looks, quite honestly, especially when you do go to the main fashion shows that you'll see the models all have that very same facial structure. It's like we're doing carbon copies of the Kardashians, with all the surgical changes to people. And yeah, a lot of these girls are naturally beautiful, but many of them are enhanced beauty. So I think the vision of beauty has changed, and I don't fit that new modern day vision of beauty. I don't want to look like anyone else but me. Yeah, I don't have a need to have fillers or Botox or any of those things done to me. I'm 73 years old, and I am who I am. I look the way I am because I don't feel the need to change me. Where a lot of younger people now today they all want to look alike. They all want to be, considered beautiful. But I think not only is physical beauty important, but internal beauty is important. If you ask me if I have a good, clean heart, a pure soul, then I'm beautiful because I think I do. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. So I have a spiritual beauty about me. So I'm not a classic beauty. You look at the Cindy Crawfords, Linda Evangelina, those are naturally beautiful women. They're not enhanced. They were just born beautiful. To me, those are beautiful. Sophia Loren was a naturally beautiful woman. Katharine Hepburn, naturally beautiful woman. Audrey Hepburn, naturally beautiful woman. Sandra Bullock, naturally beautiful woman. So there's a difference between natural beauty and artificial beauty. And I think we're seeing more artificial beauty in today's fashion industry.
Yeah. Coming from your own era and this new generation that we are in, the generation of like AI, robotics, I'm very sure you've witnessed a lot of changes
My God.
in the world. I
Yeah.
can imagine back in your days, what would you say is close to the social media we have now?
Nothing else. No, because back when I was growing up, you have to realize I come from a generation where color TV was just coming in to where just coming in. It was
We had the black and white.
black and white TVs. Yeah, very much. When I wanted to call someone, I didn't pick up a cell phone because the cell phone wasn't there. I used a rotary dial phone and dialed that number. And sometimes a lot of places had what they called party lines. So I could pick up my phone and someone else could be talking from their house to someone because we had party lines. You shared the phone lines at that
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yeah. Theater-wise, we didn't have as much visual violence as you see in today's movies. So the violence and sexuality was kind of kept under the covers. You didn't talk about your boyfriend cheating on you with your best friend. Those things weren't discussed in movies, wasn't discussed. Radio news was very popular. So you could turn on your radio and listen to news, or you could turn on your television and listen to news. But in the United States, you had very few channels. You had CBS, NBC, ABC. Those were the stations you had back then. We didn't have Netflix and Disney. You had Disney, but not a true channel.
The question I was going to ask is, what would you say has been the major difference between modeling back then and modeling now?
Again, the variance in the models. There's again, you can be any height, any size, any look for models right now. Designers still choose the models that they want, that are specific to what they visualize. But I think the fact that someone such as myself can walk a runway show at 72, 73 years old is absolutely amazing. That's the difference. When I modeled, most of the models were any place between my age at that first starting, 16, to that age of 25. That's a huge difference between it now. Back then, models you had to be over 5'8" to walk. I just barely made it because I'm 5'9".
Mm.
So you had to be 5'8" to 5'10" at that point. Now you can be 5'2" to 6'3" as a female model. Male models back then had to be specific height. You had to be 6 foot tall, 5'11" to 6 foot tall. Now you have male models that are 5'5" and 6'7". So there's the variance of difference now is that there's more diversity, which allows people buying clothing, which we all do, to be able to see people their size or their body image in clothes that they want to buy. They actually get to physically see it instead of looking at someone like me who wears American size 2. I think it's a size 6 or 8 here. If you wear a British size 14, and you're looking at someone my size who wears a size 6, you really can't see what those clothes would look like on you. So now we have models that wear size 14 that are wearing identical outfits to me, and you can see how that would look on you. So I think it allows individual people to be able to look at and see clothes that will look good on them based on their body type. And that's a huge difference. When I modeled before, let's say put it on a Chanel suit, we had to be a size 0 or a size 2, American sizes, to do a fashion show for Chanel. That's no longer true. You can be a size 10 for size 18 to walk in a Chanel show.
Now there's more diversity.
There's much more diversity, and I think that's absolutely wonderful because it opens the doors for people to buy well-designed suits such as these, what you're wearing and what I'm wearing today, because you could actually see what you're going to look like in it because there's a model your size wearing it. And I think that helps people visualize and create their own fashion sets.
Interesting. Earlier on, you mentioned you lost your husband. What was that?
I lost my husband in 2017. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, 2017, right before COVID. Well, long before COVID, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how long were you together for?
We were married 27 years, but we were together 36 years.
That's 6 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how has the process been after?
It was difficult for me. He was in the United States military. He was an anesthesiologist in the Army. I was a banker at that time, and he traveled with this military, and I traveled with my job. So our lives were very transient, quite honestly. But it was, I had a very kind husband. He had a good, kind heart. He was a good family man, loved his family. He was just a good man, but he was a humanitarian also, because he could have left the military and made tons and tons of money, but he chose to stay in the military at low paying income and support people that were basically given life and limbs for their country. And you have to admire someone like that. Yeah, he was a good man. He was a good humanitarian. Yeah.
And would you say losing him has helped you to find like more purpose with what you're doing today?
Yeah, because I think if he were still here today, I would not be modeling. I probably would not have written the books that I've written and working on additional books. I would be more, catering to what his wants and needs were and doing whatever he wanted. Um, I hate to use the term, his death gave me freedom, which sounds really cold, but in a sense, it allowed me to go back to who I was, not just a wife and banker. It allowed me to become me again. Because when you get married, you don't give up all of yourself, but you give up a lot of yourself because you want that person you're with to be happy. So you do whatever you have to do to maintain their happiness and also help create your own happiness through them.
Wait, come again with that. You say when you get married, you don't give up all of yourself. You give up
Parts of yourself.
parts of yourself.
Yeah.
Wow,
And that's a commitment to someone, though. I mean, marriage is about committing to that person for the rest of your life, and doing what is right for both of you, and being able to have good communication so that you can keep stability within your marriage life or within your individual life, quite honestly. But also, marriage is compromise, and that's something that I'm very good at. I'm very good at compromising. For me, I don't look at my need. I look at other people's needs above my own, and I've always been like that my entire life. And so for me, my ideal marriage for me was to give my husband whatever he needed of me, and I think he did the same for me. And it worked well. It worked well. But again, the old saying is, don't go to bed angry. Don't go to bed angry when you're married. If there's an issue, don't carry it over the next day because the next day it's exaggerated. Okay.
It becomes fermented and stretches.
Yeah. If you have to set up all night talking about an issue, set up all night talking about the issue. Find resolution and realize one person can't always be the compromiser. Compromising means both people are agreeing to do something or to give up something. So you come to a solution that works for both of you, but you do it through communication and compromise.
Do you think it is worth compromising on your dreams and aspiration because of your marriage?
I don't think I gave up on them. I set them to the back burner. Okay. I had a very good career in banking. I traveled the entire world with banking. I mean, I went to places I probably would have never went if it hadn't been for banking or modeling initially. My husband was very much a home person. He wanted to be home. He wanted to be around his parents, his brothers, his sisters. I'm an adventurer. He wasn't. So we learned to compromise. So when I was home, we were together. When he was deployed someplace, I was at home waiting for him. There was never any discussion or any disagreement that I wouldn't be there when he got back. And there was no discussion or determination that he would not be there when I got back. We agreed when we got married that no matter what it took, we would stay married for the rest of our existence. And that's a commitment. That's a commitment in life. And a lot of people aren't able to commit anymore. If I commit to you, I'm going to be there for you. It's like anything else. If you tell your employer you're going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's a commitment. You're there at 9 o'clock. Okay, you're there because you made that promise not only to them but to yourself.
Would you say that in this generation, do you see that declining?
You know, I'm gonna answer that two ways. 5 years ago, I would have said the younger generation really could not find a way to be committed to each other. What I'm seeing now is that the young people that I see getting married now in their 20s to their 40s are more committed to each other. And I think it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual thing, and they're happy with themselves. And that's one of the things about anything you do in life. You have to be happy with yourself in order to be successful in whatever you choose to do.
If you're to go back and advise a younger lady who is listening to this, who has like these options right in the front, career, dreams, family, how would you, what would your advice to them be to go about it?
First off, I'm a pros and cons list person. So I think anything you do in your life, you sit down, you write out the pro side and you write out the con side. And then you tear it up because none of that matters.
Hmm.
If you have a dream, you're the only person who can make it come true. And you have to be able to do what's necessary to make that come true. And if that means working a 14-hour day, then you work a 14-hour day. If that means moving out of your parents' house and getting your own place and becoming a true individual within yourself, then you do that. It's believing in yourself. It's believing that you can do it. And that's what matters. If you believe you can do it, you will do it. If you lack the confidence to say you can do it, then you need to find something else to do. Because if you don't have the confidence to step forward, then you're not going to be successful. So it's having self-awareness, having self-confidence, having that dream. And again, don't let people stop you from living that dream. Go back to marriage. My husband never told me I couldn't live my dream. He never said to me, don't model. He never said that to me. It was my choice. So the choices you make in your life, you have to live with. And that's a true fact. If you make a bad choice, rectify it, change it, If you make a good choice, move forward with it and keep moving forward until you reach the point where you want to be in that choice or that career or whatever you're doing.
What is one thing you feel you wish you knew at a more earlier age?
I don't know. It's like, it's like this is how I see my future. Okay. And I'm first off, I'm a Pisces. I'm born in March. I'm a big dreamer. I'm a creative minded person. My dream will be to be successful in modeling. To me, successful in modeling is not necessarily just walking fashion shows, but it's inspiring others to move forward in modeling if that's what they choose. It would be to stand back and look at yourself in the mirror, literally look at yourself. And I'm talking not just the physical part of you, but the psychological part of you, and make a determination exactly what you want to do and just move forward. I think that's the key thing is self-belief.
All right. Thank you so much. And before we leave, let's quickly talk about your book. You said the book is going to be out in April.
Yes, it's going to be out in April. It's a book of poem and thoughts. The name of the book is Passion of Life.
Passion of Life.
Passion of Life by Jewett. And it's going to be on Amazon and 30 other platforms for sale. And it's basically poems that I've written over the years. And it's my thoughts about cyber dating and being in the technology world today. But it's basically just poetry, emotional, raw poetry. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how it does. So it will be out in April. I'm working on another book. It's going, it's a love letter series. It's called The Love Between Rin and Katie. And it takes place during World War II. It's a young married couple. He's off fighting a war. She's at home. And it's the letters that they're writing to each other and what's going on behind the scene of each other's lives. Because he, again, is in battle and she's at home on a farm. At some point, maybe raising children. Haven't gotten that far on it. But it's a series of love letters between a man and a woman, which I find really interesting because I've never written in the masculine. Yeah, it's very difficult. I have a friend that is an author. His name's Michael Ross, and he's also a painter. So I sent one of my letters to Michael that I wrote for Rin, who's the male character. And I said, Michael, and it's written in Great Britain. So the scene is Great Britain. And I said, Michael, read this letter and tell me if a British male military person would speak like this. And he gave me the greatest compliment he could ever give me. He goes, if I did not know you're a woman, I would think you were a man writing to his wife.
Oh, wow.
And that was totally amazing because I was not too sure about that one.
What inspired that?
I'm a romantic. I don't think there's enough romance in the world. I don't think there's enough pure romance in the world. And when I talk romance, I'm talking about the guy that opens your door when you get ready to get in the car. I'm talking about the husband that brings home flowers once a week to you. I'm talking about sitting on the sofa Sunday morning. He's at one end, I'm at the other end. We're both reading books, but our feet are touching. I'm a romantic. So that's kind of what inspired. And people don't write to each other anymore. We write on Instagram. We write on Snapchat. We write on WhatsApp. We write on all these formats, but we don't write each other letters anymore. We don't express our emotions anymore. We kind of bundle them in. So I thought, well, this is going to be fun because I'm expressing a lot of emotions. And I'm expressing anger. I'm expressing love. I'm telling you what's going on. He's telling me about his battle, his problems with the battlefield, people dying. And when you look at the world today, we have the conflict in Gaza that's going on. And then we have what's going on in Ukraine. The world is on fire and in chaos. And I think the world needs more love letters.
Oh, you think the world needs more love letters?
I think the world needs more love letters, yeah.
Quickly.
I do. I do.
You just talked about the love letters, it feels more like fiction. Do they really happen?
Actually, I did some research about love letters between couples during the Second World War, and I was quite shocked at how flowery and how romantic the male counterparts were expressing their emotions to their wives or their girlfriends back home. War is such a tragedy, and you see so much bad going on, that you have to have something in your heart that makes it warm. And writing a love letter to that husband that's in the battlefield, just telling him how much you miss him and how much you want him to come home to you is very, very important. And the same on his part, that, he's in this, just came out of a major battle. And what is on his mind? His family is on his mind. That's what he's thinking about. And he's also thinking, what if something would have happened to me? How would my wife survive? How would my parents survive? How would my children survive? I think sitting down and writing those emotions is key. Because again, we don't express our emotions enough these days. We don't put them out there anymore.
Do you think there's any reason for a decline in that?
Yeah, our lives are too busy. We're all working too hard. We're not taking time to relax. We're not taking time to get off our computers and physically go out and talk to people in the street, basically. We're not going out to dinner and starting a conversation with the couple next to us, I'll tell you an experience I just had recently. And it was unusual for me to do this because I'm an empathic person. I was going to a store. Well, I was going to a designer store because I was going to do a photo shoot for them. And sitting on the steps was this young woman. I mean, she couldn't have been any more than 30 years old, and she's just crying and crying and crying. I walked past her, and I stopped, and I came back and said, "What's wrong? Do you need help?" And she looked at me and she said, "My boyfriend and I just had an argument, and he left me standing here." And I thought to myself, how could he just walk away from a woman that's standing, that's crying? She's so upset. She's crying. I don't know what the argument was. I didn't ask. And I said, "I want you to get up right now. We're going to go across the street. We're going to have a cup of coffee. And I want you to call him and tell him where you're at. And I'll sit here with you until he comes." And we did. And he came. And he was so apologetic. And it's like, this guy loves you. And it didn't matter what that fight was about. He walked away so he could cool off, People don't do that anymore. People just walk away from each other and they don't come back. And we've got to stop not coming back, We have to remember that man or that woman that's sitting there feeling lonely or down has a heart, has a soul, and it just takes one word to make that heart and soul sing. And it takes one smile. And it takes one "I'm sorry" to make everything right. And that's what we've lost. We've lost that ability to come back and admit that we were at fault and then work it out. We leave each other so much these days, and we've got to stop leaving each other. We have to start joining each other and learning who we are and what they are and being committed to making everything right. That's,
Yes, that sounds like a poem already. We leave each other, but I write as well, but I'm inspired to write something. I write daily on my blog. And I think this conversation about we leave each other has inspired me to write something,
Then-
and I will see what I can spin out
Well,
there.
write it, and then I'm gonna have when I get my books,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a book launching. So you're gonna have to come to the book launching, and maybe I'll have you read one of my poems at that book launching.
Yes, I will do that.
Yeah,
I will just send me the invite. I'll be glad
that's
to.
great.
I'll be glad to be there.
Yeah.
It's been a very insightful conversation, and me being here and you being here, and
No, we're both here. We're both in this. We're level. We're there's no up here. There's no down.
it's been interesting hearing something from your own perspective and your own experience. Before we round up, there's this game we play. It's a this or that game. So, for example, if I ask you, white or black, which is your favorite color?
Gray.
Gray. Okay, so it is for you
Um,
to pick between one of the options I give.
I love white.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Okay.
white with navy blue. It's one of my favorite colors, and it kind of blends with me because I'm the white hair,
Mm.
pale skin, gray eyes, just white. Just white's a good thing. And matter of fact, the fashion show that we walked in together,
Oh yeah, I
Coat House,
remember.
I wore that white suit. That white suit got me in Vogue. It got me in Glam. It
Wow.
got me in London One. Yeah, that white suit was a hit. It was a hit, and everyone kept saying white's my color. So
Shout out to Kosh.
yeah, it's
Is a good friend of mine. Okay, London or New York?
I actually like London. Probably not for the reason you think though. I like London because I could travel from I can go any place in this world, and any place in Europe. I can go to Africa. I can go any place I want from here, and it's not that expensive.
Oh,
It's like it's the hubbub of where I can go. I get on a plane and go wherever I want. Get on a train, go wherever I want. Yeah, I like London. I don't understand some of the people when they talk here because you speak very clear English. I speak American English. British English is not. It's English, but it's not. I don't know. Maybe this is the accents. Some of the accents. I guess it's like going to the United States. We have Southern accents and we have Northern accents. We have Western accents. I sometimes hear people talk to me and I'm going, I'm doing this. I was like, what? What? What do you say? I know they're speaking English. It's just a different English. Yeah. But I love London. I absolutely love London. New York was a lot of fun. New York is where I broke in. New York was where I got my start in 2023. London is my final because I'm going to be very successful here and very successful in Europe. I've been fortunate. I'm signed by an agency in Sweden. I'm signed by an agency in Netherlands.
wow.
I'm getting ready to sign with an agency in Germany, and I'm getting ready to sign with an agency in Paris, and I'm signed with 3 agencies here.
Wow.
And I'm looking for a mother house
Oh.
to control me.
So we can just say life begins at 73.
Life begins at 70.
Life begins at 70.
77. Yeah, it begins at 70. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Michael,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for coming on the show. It's been a wonderful conversation. We could go on and on and on.
And you'll get the word.
About
You'll get the word.
it's